I work at Ås videregående, which is a large school with students from 16 to 19, or 17 to 19, 1,300 students. We're a combined school, meaning that we have vocational and theoretical students mixed together. But in this international global competency, we've been using mainly a class of first graders, meaning 17-year-olds, over 3 years now, and there's mainly them that has been used so far. Well, I would say it was sort of what you made yourself. So before this, I would make my own list mainly, specifically a list of what I thought my students would need to know about the world. And I would teach based on that, more or less. And I guess other teachers might have done the same thing. I don't know. There was no real sort of concerted effort at all. There was no program for teaching international skills at all before this. Well, many of my students now, and I've been teaching for like 18, 19 years now, and increasingly they go abroad. Both while they're at our school and at university and afterwards. Many educations now in Norway, they require that you do 1 semester at least abroad, and many of them travel abroad. It's become a much larger part, and of course also if you work and study at a Norwegian university now, you'll be expected to work with people from around the world. So those kinds of competencies will be important for them. Well, we've done factual, of course. I mean, a lot of both fun and interesting stuff to do about different ways of seeing the world, different ways of organizing the world, looking at the world through organizations, looking at the world through geography, and looking at the world through politics and history. And then, role playing and things like that. And of course, we've done, basically studying the world as well. I mean, this is something that we have time for now to do a bit of more actual getting to know the world a little better too. Getting beyond that sort of superficial, food in different countries, and getting a bit deeper than that, and learning about politics. And I think that's an approach that I like to take a lot, is that different ways of organizing the world. You have continents and countries and geography, and then politics, and seeing how those, if you take a different approach, how it changes, how the world changes in a sense, or how we look at it. I think the time factor is always the big one. It's there's so many things that we'd like to do, and well, in my subject, social science, history, these humanistic subjects, we do have, they're there already in the curriculums, but actually taking the time to say, stop it, let's go deeper into this thing. It means, of course, leaving something else not out, but if we concentrate on one thing, that will leave something else neglected maybe. So I think it's always the time. That's the problem. The students are willing, and they find it fun. They find it interesting when I say, let's tie this in with global competencies. Then they know there's something interesting is going on. But then we have to perhaps leave the exam relevant stuff for a little bit. I try to tie it in, but it's always the time. I think it's easier when the class is, like my class, has been in on it all the way. I mean, we've done this from the beginning of the year, so they know that if I say we now have one lesson to do this, then they're easily on board. We can start straight away. They know they know what we're doing. It's not something that I have to introduce to them. So I think that keeping it going over time makes it less time consuming in a sense, because they know we don't start from scratch each time. But other than that, it's, you have to prioritize. You have to tell them also, maybe, we are taking half an hour now, we're taking 2 hours now, and just doing this. And try to, of course, it is important, even though they can't see it straight away. It does tie in with social science. Of course it does. But you have to sort of make that link and maybe go the extra mile in explaining why is this important to you, why you might bring it into an exam, even if you're not asked specifically about global competencies. How can you use this? Of course you can. You can use it. It is important. To begin with it and to end with it. I mean, it's a simple answer, I guess, but I think that's the way I want to do it. It's the first year that I'm using it, of course, but we did it at the beginning and we're going to do it again now. Well, the point is, I guess, and my school is very interested to know if we have gotten results from our work during the year. And since it's a mix of sort of attitudes and knowledge, it's interesting to see if they have changed, and if they both have changed, if they have changed in the same manner, or if one of them has changed and the other hasn't. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure they will remember it so much, but I will have the look at the results, and then we'll discuss them and get some reflection on it. And these children, these students of mine are choosing, international studies right now. They might leave for abroad, so it's a perfect time for us. We would have worked on international studies. We would have done international conflicts and international organizations and all that, but we wouldn't have had the sort of the superstructure over it that sort of ties it together. I think that's the main thing, and we would have done a lot of it. Although not as specifically on studying abroad, working abroad. But of course the whole international angle is with us all the time. But it gives us a more comprehensive, it ties it together really in an understandable way for the students. It certainly impacted them, but not in a sort of mind-changing way. But it has also, I think, for them structured their ideas about what it takes to live in a globalized world and to participate in Europe and so on. Well, I was very lucky. I got a lesson a week, and so I've been very lucky. It fits in very well with me in social science, I think. It makes sense for our class. I think the other teachers also see that it makes sense for me to do it, because the students also like the fact that even though it's not a one-on-one thing, it is exam relevant. So there's what's it called? This effect. It affects both ways, right? It strengthens synergy. Has a synergy effect that I can say we're going to work on this angle, but it's also part of our work on international studies in general. So I think it makes sense. In a Norwegian structure, it makes sense to keep it in the social science. Well, I would say, do it for that's the first thing. It's very rewarding, and I think you don't need to be afraid of, you can't be a specialist in all sorts of international studies and all aspects of this. But I think this material that we made, the survey, the material, will help them through. And I think the fact that they can pick and choose, do the survey, pick and choose from the material, use what they find useful, and then possibly do the survey again if they want to. But certainly the material is there, so I think it's a good. You don't need to be afraid that you don't know enough about international studies. It's all there.